Hello, and thank you for joining us to talk today about building a stronger privilege access management practice with CyberFOX. My name is Bill Morgan. I'm going to be walking us through just a little presentation today. I want to talk about why is PAM important? What are some of the things we can do? Why should we be doing it? What are some of the potential repercussions if we don't do it? These are all things that we are going to kind of walk through and discuss a little bit today in this presentation. So I want to start out by talking a little bit about why we need to be doing this and what we're starting to really see in the industry is ransomware and malware attacks and all these things start to really ramp up. So this is a Sophos report. And they went out over, I think, like 34 countries, 5,100 IT pros were surveyed. And this is some of the results from that particular survey. And this was put out just the beginning of 2022. So 66% of those companies and those IT pros had been in a ransomware attack in the last year, right? And now that's companies large and small. These could be as small as 100 seats all the way to 5,000 or more users. So it doesn't matter about the size anymore. Even the little folks are still experiencing it. It just takes one wrong move, one wrong click, and then it's kind of game over. Of those attacks, 65% of those ended up in some sort of data encryption. So, we're starting to really see that the complexity of these attacks, they're getting good at, whether it's spoofing emails or, being able to get some malicious code in there through a lot of different means. They're just getting really good at how they present themselves. And a lot of these things just look completely legit. And so it's pretty easy to have it happen to almost anybody. Now, out of all of those attacks, 90% of those were ransomware, and they had a pretty big impact on the ability for that company to actually operate. Okay. Now this applies to, both sides of the IT spectrum, whether you're an internal IT team or you're in an IT support company supporting multiple companies. It doesn't matter. The IT challenges are still the same, right? So, with almost a guaranteed certainty that this is going to impact how we operate and our ability to conduct business, and potentially almost it's going to affect our revenue, right? Where there's going to be a potential loss of business. These things are almost guarantees. And then here's the thing I feel is a little bit challenging is that a lot of times we're putting our faith into the certain solutions. Like, well, I have an antivirus solution. Like, that's going to fix my problem. Like, that'll take care of it. Well, I have an anti-malware solution or anti-spam solution, or look, it doesn't matter. It's security, as we all know, is a multi-layered approach, right? And one of the key things in that approach is even if you do have a lot of our common core tools in place, AV, anti-spam, malware, things like that, if we've given people the ability to be administrators on their machines, a lot of times then that isn't going to matter, right? If I've got admin rights to do what I want, I could shut that solution down. I could turn off active scanning. There's a lot of things I can do. And so privilege is one of our biggest enemies. And it's something that I think we all need to focus a lot more on, but it's a very scary road. We're going to explain why here in a little bit. So what's the outcome? Like, how did they do once they got attacked and everything's kind of a mess and we're fixing it and we're putting all the pieces back together? What did that look like? And so the 46%, almost half, paid the ransom, right? Now here's the really crappy part is that 39%, right? So 61% got some of their data back. 39% didn't. So we paid for it. So not only did we get attacked, we loss of business, loss of revenue, right? The time it takes to restore and get everything back running again, then the money that we paid for the ransom, and then we still don't get all of our data back. Right. So it's a real kind of kick in the teeth moment. And, it's something that I don't, hopefully we won't have to experience. We can get the right pieces in play to try to mitigate this as much as possible. And we're going to talk about some of those strategies here too. Now, there's something that's really starting to get on everybody's radar, and that is cyber insurance. And while it is not as regulated as some of our other insurances out there, it is coming. And we're starting to see a lot more requirements around security. It's like auto insurance. If you don't have a driver's license, I can't get insurance. And the cyber insurance companies are like, well, if you're just going to let everybody be administrators and do whatever they want, we're not going to insure you, or we're not going to give you the level of insurance that you're asking for. Or you're going to pay dearly for that. They want to see a lot of these requirements. And then, privilege access management and good password security and how you're managing accounts and users and make sure you have a good process. So these are all things that are all coming into, sort of the purview of cyber insurance, and that we have to go now and answer those and provide proof. And they're finding it really, really hard to do. Almost 100% of everybody that had breach, if you've gotten breached, it just gets harder. It's like being in a car wreck. Your insurance rates are going to be higher. And so if we can avoid that altogether, we're just going to be in a much better off position. So I'll talk a little bit about, how they do it, right? And this is just super, super high level because we could dive down on this for days, right? But, in regards to how a lot of attacks are actually successful, it comes down to just a few things that we can really control. So a lot of times those attacks occur because they have privilege. They'll exploit a misconfiguration, making people look admin, for example. That's a pretty big misconfiguration. Weak passwords are another huge part of it. Vulnerabilities in whether it's the operating system or the software, or the database, whatever we're using. Obviously, they have ways to exploit that, but a lot of those breaches, even those vulnerabilities, are successful because people have privilege. They've gained access to a privileged account. And then they start to work their way through, right? So 90%, and this is in a Verizon report, 90% of Windows breaches are successful because users have privilege, right? And sadly, 80% of those are because of compromised passwords, right? So getting our password management strategy in play, something that CyberFOX can help with, getting our privilege access management in check, something we can also help with, can mitigate potentially 94% of, like, from a vulnerability standpoint. That's huge, right? So if I could just take 94%, in the vulnerability category, if I could take that part and just get it off my plate, right? By simply taking away admin rights and doing a better job with password management, that would be amazing, right? That would go a long way to, ensuring that, we're not one of those ransomware victims. So that can take care of a lot of the problems, right? It's just removing the ability for anybody to have privilege. So, and that's what they do. So they'll exploit a compromised password. They'll find somebody with privileged access, or they'll just happen across them, a bot, whatever the case is, right? They have elevated privilege. Most people are local admins. We don't have a way today to provide for managing privilege or doing that remotely, right? Because a lot of us, COVID, we're all spread out. So managing privilege remotely, I can't just walk to your desk, type my password in anymore. Now we've got to set up a meeting time. We've got to get on remote control, some screen sharing session like Zoom or something. And then I've got to put my username and password in, all so you can do an update to QuickBooks, right? It's supremely annoying. So what they do is they exploit that. They know that this is how a lot of systems are going to be configured. And then they start to investigate. They figure out, okay, now what can I get to based on what I was able to get from you? And they move through the organization laterally. It's not just I'm in and I'm out. Like, they could be in there for months before, gaining access to information that they want, that they feel is valuable, things they could potentially sell, access they could give out, things like that. And then ultimately, boom, the job is, I'm going to blow the joint up on the way out the door, right? So you sort of the old movie cliche where you sort of light the stick of dynamite, throw it over your shoulder, walk out the door, and the place goes boom. What does Microsoft say? Like, what is the big guy? What do they say about having to, what should you do to solve this huge problem? And actually, I looked all around. It was very simple. They're like, hey, best practice is everybody should be a standard user, and that the best mitigation strategy is one that eliminates admin accounts altogether. Now, here's another interesting thing, right? So let's go look at how Microsoft views identity, right? So they say, hey, we need to have a single view of management and application rules, be able to process these requests for whether it's for access or for privilege, because this covers identity user management, something we're not going to go into, but we're going to apply this to how we can apply privilege, just-in-time access to resources and things like that. Microsoft says, hey, you got to have all these pieces in play, and this is how you got to do it. And this is the best process for it, and have a place where authorization can be handled. And that's all well and good. But you just told me that nobody is supposed to be an admin because that's the best strategy, and that everybody should be a standard user. So how am I supposed to provide privilege or give people access or grant people if nobody's an admin? It's a little bit of a conundrum, right? It's kind of like, hey, you should turn UAC all the way up. You should have everybody as a standard user. No person should be an admin and you'll be safe. It's like, great, when I need access to something, how am I supposed to do that? Right. And then they've got this whole convoluted process, whether it's with Active Directory or Azure to groups permissions. And there's just granting exceptions is impossible. So how do we fix that? Right. And so, because ultimately, if we do what Microsoft tells us to do, this is what ends up happening, right? This guy right here, this is me. I'm this guy so much where I look at that and I go, yeah, just give me my admin rights, man, please. Right. And then when you tell them no, then of course they start to get all upset. And then the internal IT team or the MSP that's working with them or the technical, support companies working, they're all upset. You guys are the evil empire. We hate you. You won't let us do anything, and then ultimately we're just over here throwing a temper tantrum going, just give me back my rights, man. Like, I'm the guy that'll drive you insane, right? Just give me my admin rights. Let me do it. But then of course I'm probably the one that's going to get breached because I'm going to do something that I probably shouldn't have. Ultimately, we need to figure out a way to balance all of this, okay? A lot of times we end up going way too heavy in one direction or another. Either we go way too much on the access side and way too light on the security side about locking things down and what they can have access to and what kind of privilege people need. Or we do the complete opposite, right? We just let's just open the door, just give them the keys to the kingdom. Security is, super, super crazy. And we look at that and we go, well, if security is super crazy and I don't have access to anything, then it falls back on the IT professionals, right? That's hopefully you folks that are, going, well, now I have to manage all of it. And not only have to do my job, which is crazy already, I'm already time poor. And now I've got to go take care of, all of my over-the-shoulder admin stuff and giving people access to things when they need it. And I don't know when that is or when they're going to ask for it. It could be on a Sunday afternoon. How am I going to deal with that? And so ultimately, we need to figure out what is the balance, right? What is the right amount of access to provide with the right amount of security, right? When we get there, ultimately, we get happy customers because what we end up doing is if we can achieve that, we are providing a delightful sort of seamless end user experience where they understand what's happening and we are able to be responsive in a way that they're not waiting a day or two or three, right? I got to update this application. I submit a ticket Friday and somebody calls me back on Tuesday, right? And so we want to generate happy customers. So how can we help you do that? So with Auto Elevate, our job is to help you solve that conundrum that Microsoft puts us in with, here is, you should be UAC cranked up to here, everybody standard user, remove all your admins. And then you're like, great, how do I give people access to stuff? Because there are times when, yeah, they do need access to do something and I've locked it all down. And so instead of me logging in and doing all of this mess and putting my credentials in, typing my password over and over again to give them access to do something on a Saturday night, That's one of the reasons we designed Auto Elevate, right? And so it ticks a lot of the boxes when it comes to looking at how do I manage identity and privilege with Microsoft, right? Because they make it very difficult. So we do provide that single purview of who is using privilege, right? And what end users are getting access to what engineers are granting privilege, or what engineers are using privilege. This is one of the things that we can do as well, is I can allow for engineers to actually go in and do administrative work, grant themselves privilege, but them actually as a standard user, so that they don't actually have an admin account. So they don't know your admin account, they don't know your admin password, but they can still do admin level work, and we can track their use of privilege. We can do approvals, we can do denials, we can do just in time. So if the CEO is out on a trip and he's got to change the time on his computer, you can hit that on your phone at 10 o'clock at night and go approve, and then it'll grant him access to do it, and you are done and out of the picture. That auditing is going to be a key piece too. We know when these things are happening, where, what system, who's saying yes, who's saying no. And then if we do use the technician side of it, what are our technicians doing? Because here's the thing, when you grant somebody access as an administrator, I don't really have an audit trail of what you're doing after you log in. And with Auto Elevate, we can actually do that. So we can track what steps they're taking. So if you're granting yourself admin rights to the command line or PowerShell or install an application or get in the registry, we're going to audit all of that. We're going to track it all, so we know every time the use of privilege has been granted. And we're going to lock it down across the board. Let's get rid of those admin accounts, just like Microsoft says. Let's get rid of those admin accounts, and then allow us to have stronger governance, better compliance, whether it's CMMC or HIPAA or PCI compliance, SOX, whatever it is that we're trying to achieve. One of the key things is going to be restriction of the use of privilege, right? If you're an administrator, it's just too much power. And ultimately, you want to deliver that in a way that the end user is super happy, right? So we keep them from going John Wick on you. So I think it's important to touch on a little bit of the best practices, right? So we focus around CIS Control 5 and Control 6, right? Around the tools and process to manage credentials, right? So our password management solution and credentialed accounts and things like that. So who has access, who can use passwords, share passwords, see passwords. And then the use of tools that allow us to revoke that access or provide privilege for admins, for service accounts, for all of that stuff. So we have kind of built this around the CIS control framework, which is sort of built around the NIST framework, if you will. And so that doesn't come from a place of like out in left field. It's actually, built on best practices. A little bit about CyberFOX. We have been in the MSP community for a long, long time. I personally have been in with the MSP community for the last 13 years, been in IT for the last 25 years. The folks that we have on our staff have either been MSP owners, are still MSP owners, or have worked in the MSP community for the last several years. We have some of the original co-founding members of the ConnectWise folks that have founded CyberFOX and put some of these security solutions together. And so, whether it's for internal IT teams, which we work very closely with, or our MSP folks, which we also work very closely with, we have the time and experience to help you out. That's what we wanted to talk about today. Wanted to really thank you for taking the time to come and chat with us. We do really appreciate it. We know how valuable your time is, and we look forward to either seeing you on our website, one of our demos, or talking to one of our folks. Thanks so much. Have a great day.